Now let's have a look at some animals in the wild. We've got here a fair selection of the sort of thing that you might get in a landscape picture. We've got a fox, obviously. We've got our little friend, a koala bear from Australia, an ideal companion to any eucalyptus tree that you might paint with an Australian theme. We've got the stag and the various deers, and the close cousin of the stag, of course, is the moose or the elk, both the female and the male. And then finally we've got here a few rabbits, or in this case this is the jackrabbit, very distinguishable because of its long ears. Right, let's have a look at a couple of sketches that we've done based on some of these photographs. We have a look at the stag, if you like, the classic monarch of the glen sort of picture. I've filled in the more or less the proper outline of the rest of the stag, from the back legs and the tail end. We need to do a little bit more on the front end as yet. I just want to have a look really at the way I've done the head. If you have a look at the head of the stag, most animals have the eyes either side of the head or on the corner of the head, so that the eyes or the skull bulges over above the eye socket in that situation. That's the same whether it's a cow, a horse, a sheep or whatever. The way I've dealt with that is simply by, he looks more like the Tin Man there, doesn't he? I've just painted a triangle over the top of the head to represent where that bulge would occur, and it also gives me a useful line to place and position the eyes. The nose, well, very often, for a lot of animals, you find that if you're going to do them that close, a simple Y shape sitting on top of a line, if you can imagine there, will very easily give you the shape of an animal's nose. So in this case, all I've done is to do a triangle, and we can put a detail in that if we wanted to, but for the most part, from this sort of distance, you probably don't need to. We've got an oblong for the neck, and we've got two large ovals for the ears. So let's just try and develop that a little bit with the felt tip pen. See that I'm coming down and in like that. All the time I'm just looking at the shape of the body. Here below this joint you can see that the leg narrows off considerably. Now you can see almost that I'm just putting that in for emphasis there. There's the eye and there's the eye. That line there is almost there across the bridge of the nose. Like that. Right, you can see I've filled in the colour of the stag with a red-brown colour. It's cad red and yellow ochre and a little bit of raw umber. And you can see the brush strokes. I've tried to do it to sort of follow the line of the flanks and the belly of the animal, so you get that sort of little texture of deer fur. Now I'm just filling in very quickly with a lighter colour, basically raw umber and white, just to fill in the colouring of the face, which is a little bit lighter, and it also helps to bring it forward slightly. Just using the excess of the paint here just to create that lighter area. That'll sink back in a second, but it'll also help to create a little bit of texture, a hit and miss basis. Again, I'm assuming the light's coming from the left, which is, I think, slightly different. The light's coming from the right on this animal here, on the photograph. We'll put a little bit of neat raw umber underneath the flanks like that. Right, you can see I'm just creating some quite light, really light paint. Slight beige, it's this colour with a little bit of white added. And really all I'm going to do now is just almost paint the shape of the animal's face. Remember, the light I said is coming from the left, so that's going to be a bit lighter over his head. That's going to catch a little bit of light on the top of that ear, and a little bit on there. And this is nice because it gives a nice rough, almost shaggy texture to the animal. And as I said, this is going to dry back in a second anyway. Now if I start reinstating the shape of the face, or the mouth, starting with the mouth, the triangular shaped nose like that, bit of the shadow underneath the mouth, bit of a shadow on that side of the face, and most importantly those big brown eyes. So I hope you can see how that works. And perhaps if we get the rigger brush just to finish this little cameo scene off. Just taking some of that off. Now I'm using a rigger for these antlers, but if you don't feel confident and you think you might spoil them by trying to use a paintbrush and going too thick or too fat, then if you feel more confident with your acrylic painting using a felt tip pen, then go ahead and use a felt tip pen. There's no law that says you can't use any sort of media with your painting. An acrylic painting might be 99% acrylic, but at the end of the day, if you feel better and it works better for you that you use a felt tip pen for this sort of thing, then go ahead and use a felt tip pen. So I'm going to finish that off now. Just put a little bit of greenery in for our mate to stand on. As ever, the thing could be developed a little bit further, perhaps just darken that slightly there, but you can go on forevermore trying to play around. And as I've said with previous lessons, unfortunately we haven't got the time to develop it in the way I might want to. I'm going to leave that to you. There's a little rabbit we've done exactly, or a hare, suit yourself, exactly the same way. The koala bear, well, there's your next little exercise, isn't it? I've drawn in the outline basic shapes for you. There's the example I've actually used as he's clinging to that branch, but here's another 2 or 3 examples from different positions that are equally valid. So have a look at the way these animals work. With the fox, for example, I've done that one deliberately because that tells you all about how he's on the prowl, and just that leg raised up more than anything perhaps tells you about the character of the fox, the crafty fox, where he's very carefully putting one foot in front of the other, just keeping a beady eye out on things. See how just by using those basic shapes yet again you can create that sort of impression, that sort of effect very, very simply. So there we are. There's some animals in the wild. Hope that's given you some food for thought.